Hail, fellow travelers. Tim from Secret Fire Books here with my monthly reading report for the month of July 2025. I apologize if I sound a little stuffy on my end. I am just getting over the last dregs of this killer cold that was destroying me over the past week. I'm definitely feeling a lot better now, but I might still be a little congested, so I apologize about that. I did read 8 books in the month of July. 8 books and a smattering of short stories. And I'm going to talk about them really quickly because I have some announcements and a few channel updates that I'd like to make. So let's get right to it. The first book that I read in the month of July was Elric of Melniboné by Michael Moorcock. This is the first book of the Elric saga. It is part of a read-along event that I'm hosting alongside 2 other channels, News from the Gelding and Liminal Spaces. We're reading one of the main Elric saga novels every month for the rest of the year, so that will take us all the way until the end of the Elric saga with book 6 in the month of December. And yeah, we've all done reviews on book 1 so far. I did a review. News from the Gelding did a review. Liminal Spaces did 2 reviews because that's just the kind of guy that Chris is. And so I added those all to a playlist. I will leave a link to that playlist in the description if you want to check that out. I'll be adding all of our reviews to that list as the series continues, as the read-along continues. So check that out. The second book that I read in the month of July was, The Bellmaker by Brian Jakes. This is book number 7 in the Redwall series. I will be doing a review for that book sometime soon. I know no one is clamoring for the Redwall reviews, but it's just a personal project of mine. I am slowly making my way through this big old 22-book series. And so yeah, the review for Bellmaker will be coming out sometime this month. After that, I read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl, just because I felt like it. I had never read the book before, even though I've seen both of the movies multiple times. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was one of my favorite movies as a kid, and it was very interesting seeing the slight little differences between the book and the movie. There are a lot of things that both of the movies were very faithful to in different respects, but the book is its own kind of quaint little beast of its own, I guess. And it's fun. It's a fun kids book. I'm glad I read it.
Hurry, please. Long way to go yet. Oh, wait a minute. Must show you this.
Next up, after that, I read Dark Matter by John Chapman, also known as Uncle Jimmy from News from the Gelding. This was a collection of his science fiction stories, his sort of darker sci-fi horror stories. And I did a review for it here on the channel, so if you want more information about that, go ahead and check out that video, and please go and check out the Amazon link. I'll leave that in the description as well. Check out the Amazon link to Jim's book, because it was absolutely fantastic. I want more people to read that. It was a great book. He did a great job with it. Then I read The Moon of Skulls by Robert E. Howard. This was a collection of Solomon Kane stories put out by Centaur Books in the 70s, I believe. They had 3 different volumes that collected a bunch of different Solomon Kane stories. This one included The Moon of Skulls, Skulls in the Stars, and The Footfalls Within. So 3 sort of longer novelette-size Solomon Kane stories, and they're all good. They're all fun action-adventure, sword and sorcery stories. They are some of Robert E. Howard's earlier writing, so they aren't quite as good as some of his later stories, such as his Conan the Barbarian stories. They're a little simpler. The language and the prose is a little more shoddy as compared to his absolutely masterful prose that he would employ with some of the later Cull stories and Bran MacMorn, and definitely in his Conan series. But they're fun. They're fun adventure stories, and it's just what I needed to sort of cleanse my palate after reading something as doomy and gloomy as Elric of Melniboné. Then I read Hook by Terry Brooks. This is the novelization of the movie from 1991. I think that's when the movie came out. Yeah, I found this book at I found it at a Goodwill a few weeks ago, and again, the movie Hook is one of my favorite childhood memories. I loved watching that movie. It was so much fun. I don't think it holds up very well, but I at the very least remember the performances of Dustin Hoffman as Captain Hook and what's his name? Bob Hoskins as Mr. Smee being some highlights from my childhood. And so yeah, it was good to it was an interesting read. It was a novelization that stuck very, very close to the source material. Usually novels or films and film novelizations tend to have some kind of discrepancy because as I understand it, the novelizations are usually based on an earlier draft of the screenplay, so they can put the book out around the same time that the movie comes out, if not before. And this one was very similar. I might have to watch the movie again to make sure, but I'm pretty sure the story went exactly as it does in the movie. And Terry Brooks did a good job. I've kind of bagged on Terry Brooks before, at least with his first Shannara book. I called it boring, I called it meandering, I called it a Lord of the Rings ripoff, which it most certainly is. But Terry Brooks is a good writer, and his version of Hook was still a lot of fun. The way he kind of uses words to paint pictures of what's happening in the story, as opposed to what's going on in the film, was very cool, and I liked it a lot. It was a nice little experience reading a prose version of one of my favorite childhood movies. So yeah, nothing too special, but it was a fun read. I'm glad I read it. And after that, I read The Last Castle by Jack Vance. This was a science fiction novella by Jack Vance. It was the second half of the Dragon Masters Ace Double that I read last month. It was okay. I didn't like it as much as Dragon Masters. Dragon Masters, at the very least, had this really interesting premise going for it. The Last Castle kind of hints at an interesting premise. It has these people in this distant future living in these huge castle, these huge cities that are surrounded by these massive walls, and they're just living these lives of luxury, attended by these alien subjects who they've captured from other planets and have kind of subjugated to their will. Eventually, some of these aliens rise up and revolt against them. And I think it could have been an intriguing premise, but none of the characters are very interesting. None of the action is all that engaging. The plot kind of just sits around until the very end, till the last 20 pages or so, and then we get this big revelation that kind of carries the plot through to its end. And yeah, it's just not all that engaging at all. I find that Jack Vance has these really cool ideas and this really deep world building that he gives to these very shallow stories. He really thinks out the environments that he's putting into these very short novellas and short stories that it's almost like they don't deserve the amount of effort he's putting into them, because he'll go through and name all these different clans and families and their different relationships and feuds with one another. And he'll talk about all these different aliens that the human race has subjugated and how they work and what their purposes are in society. But they have little to no bearing on what's actually going on in the story. Like I said, the stories themselves just feel very shoddy and flimsy and not all that well thought out, as opposed to the actual world building. I don't know. I've heard Jack Vance is really, really good. I've heard his Dying Earth series is amazing. So I'll have to check that out at some point. Hopefully the plot for the Dying Earth isn't as flimsy as the plot for the Dragon Masters or the Last Castle. Ooh, this is an interesting one. So the last book that I read in July was Casa, Panzer Soldier by Barry Sadler. This is one of the books in the Casa, the Eternal Mercenary series by Barry Sadler. I think it's the fourth book in the series. And I heard about this series for a while. The first time I heard about it was when Grammaticus did a book, I think sometime last year. It might have been a couple years ago now that I think about it. The point is, Grammaticus did a video about the Casca series a while ago. He did 2 videos, in fact. And I was fascinated by the concept of this. So it's a series of historical military adventure novels that take place during multiple wars all throughout history. And the main character, Casca, or Casca Rufio Longinus, as he's called, is the Longinus from the New Testament, the Roman centurion who, during Christ's crucifixion, stabbed him in the side with a spear. And according to the lore of the series, when he pierced the side of Christ, he was cursed with eternal life. Christ actually cursed Longinus to roam the world as as a mercenary for all time until the Second Coming. And so the main character essentially lives through every war that's ever been. And each novel in the series talks about his experiences in a different part of the world during a different conflict, with him as this kind of ever-present mercenary who just experiences all the horrors of war all around the world, all throughout history. And so I thought that concept was very interesting, and I was able to find a few of these books at an antique shop. I paid a pretty price for it, but I got a few of these books, and I'll actually be doing, I think I'll be doing a review of that one book that I read, Casa, Panzer, Soldier, because that one in particular was very interesting. I don't want to say too much about it, because like I said, I want to do a review, but its premise was not the kind of thing that you'd usually look for in a historical adventure series. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk about that at some point in the future. So then I read a whole bunch of short stories. I dipped back into my collection of Edgar Allan Poe and reread The Fall of the House of Usher, which I haven't read since, I think, middle school. I'm pretty sure the last time I read that story, I was 13 or 14 years old. And I remember that story being absolutely horrifying. And this time around, I didn't think it held up that well. Far be it from me to criticize Edgar Allan Poe, one of the greatest American writers of all time. But I didn't like The Fall of the House of Usher as much as the other stories of his that I've reread lately. I think that the plot itself has a lot going for it. It's very symbolic. It has a lot of themes going on. But in this story, more than any of his others that I've read, Poe is a little overly prosaic. His kind of verbose vocabulary comes out in a major way, and entire paragraphs of text go by without really saying anything of substance. And I found myself kind of bored by this story, even though the ending is spectacular. And like I said, it has a lot of symbolism and very cool themes going on. But yeah, I did not appreciate The Fall of the House of Usher as much as I did when I was reading it as a teenager. But like I said, I've said before that Edgar Allan Poe was one of my favorite authors back when I was a teenager. So I'll continue to read through that collection of his short stories. I'll continue to reread the stories I've read before and explore more of his fiction that I have yet to read. He's definitely one of those authors who's worth investing in, even though he has a very slightly more archaic writing style than a lot of the stuff that we generally talk about in this corner of BookTube. And then I read 3 short stories out of this big old tome. This is The Black Lizard, Big Book of Pulps, edited and compiled by Otto Penzler. This is a massive, massive anthology of crime stories from Black Mask magazine and other pulp magazines of the time. And I've been trying to get into crime fiction lately. Jim from Mystery and Mayhem ran an event called Private Eye July over the month of July, kind of promoting crime fiction, specifically private investigator fiction. And I didn't really partake in that just because I had a bunch of books that I wanted to read already. And so I didn't want to dedicate any lengthy amounts of time to some crime novels. But I did have this big old anthology, and I figured I could read some short stories. So I read the first 3 short stories from the Black Lizard Big Book of Pulps, compiled and edited by Otto Penzler. The first one that I read was 123 by Paul Kane. The second was The Creeping Siamese by Dashiell Hammett. And then the third was Honest Money by Earl Stanley Gardner. Now, I will say that out of those 3 authors, Dashiell Hammett and Earl Stanley Gardner are authors that have been brought up multiple times to me and have been recommended as far as authors that can kind of ease me into the crime genre. And I liked Paul Kane's story, 123. I thought it was a little too short, a little too predictable, maybe. I didn't like Dashiell Hammett's story, The Creeping Siamese, all that much. Again, I thought it was a little too predictable. But then again, these stories were written way back when, in the 20s and 30s, when mystery tropes were still in development in the genre. But I did really, really like Honest Money by Earl Stanley Gardner. It has some twists and turns that I really appreciated, and I'm looking forward to reading more of the Black Lizard Big Book of Pulps, compiled and edited by not Earl Stanley Gardner, Otto Penzler. That's the guy who did it. Edited by Otto Penzler. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting deeper into this book at some point. Okay, that took way too long. I said that I was going to get through those really quickly, and I ended up dedicating, 15, 16 minutes to all that. But anyway, let's get through the stuff that I'm reading right now and will be reading. I'm not reading anything at the moment. Actually, I did start reading the 8th book in the Redwall series, Outcast of Redwall by Brian Jakes. I started reading it at the end of July. I'm about 50 or 60 pages in, but I have not continued so far. I intend to read a little bit more of that later today. And then I'll also be reading the next book in the Elric saga. That is Book 2, Sailor on the Seas of Fate, which, to my recollection, is my favorite of the mainline Elric saga novels. It's kind of this big crossover event between Elric and a bunch of other heroes from Michael Moorcock's multiverse, and I can't wait to get into that. I can't wait for the other folks in the read-along to read that book, and I can't wait to make my own review, because I haven't talked about that book in depth before on the channel, and it is well worth a read, and it is well worth a discussion, because it has a lot of cool stuff going on. Alright, now on to the channel updates and the announcements. First of all, you might be seeing quite a few videos on this channel about Pulp Fest. As you can see, I'm wearing my official Pulp Fest t-shirt. I got these from my buddy Nick at the Book Graveyard. His printing company is actually making the official shirts for Pulp Fest this year. So if you want to pick one up, go ahead and go over to the Streetlight Printing website. I'll leave a link in the description below to that as well. Yeah, Pulp Fest is coming. It's going to be from August 7th to the 10th, and I am so freaking excited. Not just because it's Pulp Fest, and I'm going to be able to have the opportunity to shop around and look at some old pulp magazines and paperbacks, but also because all my YouTube friends are going to be there. I'm meeting up with my Eebs buddies, Nick from the Book Graveyard and Jake from Pulp Mortem, and apparently a bunch of other folks from our little corner of BookTube are going to be there as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I intend to make, I don't know how much of it I'm going to vlog, but I am going to make quite a number of videos showing off what it's like at Pulp Fest. And maybe I'll edit together a big highlight reel about all the stuff we've got going on there. Guys, I'm so excited, and I know that quite a few of my friends here on YouTube are not going to be able to make it, but they want to go so badly. So this is my way of kind of filling my friends in on what they're missing out at Pulp Fest. So there will be either one big video or several smaller videos dedicated to Pulp Fest coming up on the channel in the next week or so. I don't know how much video editing I'll be able to do while I'm there. I intend to bring my laptop so I can edit some videos together and put them up on YouTube. But like I said, it might end up being one huge video that I compile at the end of the trip. But we'll see. As for the other videos that you can expect to see on this channel in the month of August, I will be doing another Random Book Wednesday right before I head to Pulp Fest. That Wednesday, or this Wednesday rather, is going to be the day before the event kicks off. So I don't know what book I'll be doing for that review. That's what makes it Random Book Wednesday. But I will be doing one of those the day before I head up to Pennsylvania. And so once I get back from that event, the first proper book review I'll be doing is on The Bellmaker, the 7th book in the Redwall series. And then depending on how quickly I can finish it, I might be uploading a review for Book 8, The Outcast of Redwall, immediately after. I'm going to try to get these Redwall reviews out a lot quicker than I have been. Then I'll also be reviewing Book 2 of the Elric saga, The Sailor on the Seas of Fate by Michael Moorcock. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I want to do a review for Casa, Panzer Soldier by Barry Sadler. I might be doing a video that kind of covers just the series in general. Even though I've only read one book, I have studied up a bit on the series and kind of figured out what it's all about. It's a massive series. The series is still going to this day, I think. I think the most recent book came out last year, so I think it's still ongoing. But yeah, I'll probably be uploading a video talking about that book in particular, and the series in general at some point in the month of August. And then, of course, because I'll be buying a lot of books and pulps at Pulp Fest, I'll be doing a book haul at some point in the month of August, a major, major book haul. I don't know if I'll live stream it or just do a really long video, but I will be doing a book haul showing off all the stuff that I pick up at Pulp Fest. I haven't even gotten there yet, and I can already smell the musty old paperbacks.
As you can see, I'm doing a very delicate sniffing. I don't want to inhale any fecal spores and ruin my holiday.
Then, at some point in the month, I want to do a video that I've kind of teased around for a while. I've mentioned it in live streams and in other videos, but I haven't actually done it yet. I want to make a video about the greatest sword and sorcery short stories of all time. In my opinion, the sword and sorcery genre works best in the short story format. And so I'm going to put together a list. I have a bunch of stories that could possibly make the cut. I just don't know what number I want to go with. I was thinking about doing 7 since it starts with an S, and 7 sword and sorcery short stories. It has some nice alliteration to it. I might go a top 10. We'll see. But I have all the potential stories written down. I have it planned out. What I'm going to do for the video. I just have to film the darn thing. So that will be happening at some point this month. I promise. I need to get around to doing that because whether I like it or not, this has become a sort of sword and sorcery channel. I talk about a little bit of everything when it comes to genre fiction, but sword and sorcery is my main shtick, I've found. So I think people will appreciate it if I do a video talking about what I think are the greatest sword and sorcery short stories of all time. Okay, and lastly, before I totally lose my voice, I wanted to make an announcement about the next episode of the Elusive Exclusive Book Society. Now, during Pulp Fest, we will be doing a live stream. I don't know whose channel it's going to be on. We haven't actually figured that out yet, but it'll either be on my channel, Pulp Mortem, or the Book Graveyard. One of those 3 channels, we will be doing a live stream at some point in the coming weeks. But the next episode of the Elusive Exclusive Book Society will be happening on August 24th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be reviewing At the Earth's Core by Edgar Rice Burroughs. And I am so happy to announce our special guest for this episode. It took some string pulling, it took calling in some favors, but I was finally able to do it. And so, for the next episode of the Elusive Exclusive Book Society, we have, as a special guest, the one, the only, the irreplaceable, the stately.
Get on with it.
Yes, get on with it!
Mr. Michael K. Vaughan. I am so freaking excited for this to happen. I have been trying to get Michael on the show for a long time. And by that, I mean, I've been summoning up the courage to just email him and say, hey, do you want to be on one of our live streams? Basically, ever since we started having guests on the Elusive Exclusive Book Society. And the funny thing is, when we first started doing the show, a lot of people said, hey, you should get Michael on the live stream with you. And I agreed. But now we're just getting around to reaching out to him, and he said yes. So I'm excited. I don't know if that means that he's bringing Roger along with him. I don't know if that would be a good thing or a bad thing. But either way, I'm excited. This might doom us all. That mummy might reach through our computer screens and kill us all with dark magic. But it's going to be fun, at the very least. So yeah, that's my update. That's my reading report for the month of July 2025. Let me know in the comments, guys. Have you read any of those books? What did you think of them? Are you going to Pulp Fest? And if so, can I expect to see you there? Whatever the case, I hope you'll join me in the next review. Until next time, as always, farewell and keep reading.
The strawberries taste like strawberries. The snozberries taste like snozberries.
Snozberries? Who ever heard of a snozberry?
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.